The untamed strength, understanding the Sigma male. Not every strong man needs to be tamed, some simply need to be understood. Society often mistakes independence for rebellion, quiet confidence for arrogance, and self-sufficiency for detachment. But the truth is, there are men who move through life on their own terms, not out of defiance, but because they answer to a rhythm most people can't hear. These men don't seek permission to exist as they are. They don't conform to expectations or beg for validation. They are the architects of their own destiny, and no amount of outside pressure will force them into a mold that was never meant to hold them. The man outside the box. There's a certain kind of man who doesn't fit into anyone's box, not because he's broken, but because he was never meant to be contained. He doesn't follow the popular narrative because he writes his own. He doesn't crave attention because he finds validation within himself. He doesn't ask for permission to live life on his terms because he recognizes that true freedom isn't granted, it's taken. This man is the Sigma male, a rare force of nature who operates outside hierarchies, defies conventional labels, and thrives in the quiet power of his own sovereignty. The woman who stands beside him. And truth be told, not every woman is built to stand beside him. It's not because he's impossible to love or unwilling to connect, it's because he demands something most people aren't prepared to give. He doesn't need a woman who clings, who doubts, or who seeks constant reassurance. What he requires is far rarer, a woman who knows her own worth so deeply that she doesn't feel the need to prove it every second. A woman who doesn't just walk into a room, she owns it, effortlessly, without a single word. The Sigma male doesn't chase love, validation, or acceptance. He doesn't need to. He chooses, carefully, intentionally, and only when he finds someone who meets him at his level. The woman who earns his respect isn't just his partner, she's his equal. She brings peace, not chaos, strength, not games, freedom, not fear. She doesn't suffocate him with neediness or drown him in drama. Instead, she stands firm in her own power, making his life richer, not heavier. Is this you? If you've ever wondered why some relationships suffocate men like this, or if you've felt, deep down, that you're the kind of woman who could walk alongside a Sigma, not behind or ahead of him, but beside him, then you're in the right place. This isn't about changing who you are to fit someone else's expectations. It's about recognizing the kind of connection that doesn't just feel good, it feels right, in a way that defies explanation. A mirror, not a fairy tale. This video isn't just another checklist or fairy tale. It's a mirror. It will show you the unfiltered truth about what it really takes to match a Sigma male's energy, not by dimming your light, but by amplifying it. It will challenge you to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored. It will inspire you to demand more, not just from a man, but from yourself. And if you let it, it might even awaken something inside you that you forgot existed, the unshakable confidence of a woman who doesn't just want love, but deserves it, on her own terms. The invitation. So if you're ready to hear it straight, if you're not afraid of a little truth, even when it stings, then watch until the very end. Because this isn't just another conversation. This could change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and your worth, forever. Let's dive in. Number 1, she brings peace, not chaos. A Sigma male's world is one of constant motion. His mind is a battlefield of ideas, ambitions, and visions that few can comprehend. He spends his days navigating a system not built for him, chasing dreams that defy conventional logic, and fighting silent wars most will never witness. The last thing he needs is to come home to emotional turbulence, drama, mind games, or manufactured crises designed to test his patience or prove his devotion. Chaos isn't just unattractive to him, it's intolerable. The woman who stands beside him understands this instinctively. She doesn't create unnecessary conflict to feel seen. She doesn't weaponize her emotions to keep him on edge. She doesn't magnify minor misunderstandings into full-blown storms because she knows his energy is better spent on building his legacy, not soothing insecurities she should have mastered long ago. Her peace isn't performative. It's not the kind where smiles are plastered on for appearances while tension simmers beneath the surface. It's the kind where silence between them feels like a conversation. Where trust isn't a negotiation but a given. Where he can exhale in her presence, knowing she isn't another problem to solve but a sanctuary in a world that constantly demands he prove himself. Sigma males are drawn to stability because their minds never stop moving. They analyze, strategize, and dissect the world around them with relentless precision. When they encounter a woman who doesn't add to the noise but instead reduces it, it's like finding an oasis in a desert. To a Sigma, a woman's ability to cultivate calm isn't just admirable, it's intoxicating. It signals emotional intelligence, self-possession, and a depth of character that can't be faked. She doesn't need constant validation because she validates herself. She doesn't seek control because she trusts herself, and by extension, trusts him. And here's what most never realize: when a woman becomes his piece instead of his problem, she unlocks a version of him almost no one sees. Behind the calculated exterior lies a loyalty that runs bone deep, a protectiveness that borders on primal, and a devotion that expresses itself not in grand declarations but in quiet, unwavering presence. He doesn't stay out of obligation, he stays by choice, again and again, because she is the rare exception in a world that exhausts him. In an era of manufactured chaos, a woman who radiates calm isn't just desirable, she's essential. Number 2, she doesn't just listen, she understands the language between his words. A Sigma male doesn't communicate in monologues or emotional expositions. He speaks in code, through pauses, through what he omits, through the weight of a glance that carries more meaning than an hour of someone else's chatter. He won't hand you a manual to his mind because if you need one, you'll never truly understand him. The woman who earns her place beside him doesn't just hear his words, she deciphers his silence. She reads the shift in his posture when he's withdrawing not out of indifference, but because he's processing. She detects the tension in his jaw when he's frustrated but refuses to verbalize it. She knows the difference between his "I'm fine, that means leave me alone" and the one that means "I need you to stay close without asking me why." Most people fail with Sigma males because they demand translation. They need emotions labeled, dissected, and spoon-fed to them. They mistake his brevity for coldness, his introspection for detachment. They grow impatient when he doesn't perform vulnerability on command, never realizing that his trust isn't given, it's earned. But she doesn't rush him. She doesn't pepper him with questions or fill the quiet with nervous chatter. She listens the way a scholar reads ancient text, studying not just the words, but the spaces between them. Her intuition is her compass, her patience her greatest strength. She knows that forcing him to speak before he's ready is like yanking a blade from a wound, it only makes him bleed faster. And because of this, he does something remarkable around her, he relaxes. With others, he's perpetually braced for misunderstanding, for the inevitable moment when they reduce his complexity to a caricature. But with her, he feels seen in a way that defies explanation. He doesn't have to justify his need for solitude or defend his refusal to perform emotional labor on demand. She doesn't just tolerate his depth, she navigates it effortlessly, like a sailor who knows the tides by instinct. In a world drowning in empty small talk and performative vulnerability, this kind of connection is vanishingly rare. To a Sigma male, it's not just valuable, it's irreplaceable. Because when a woman can understand him without demands, hear him without interrogation, and stand beside him without suffocation, she doesn't just win his attention, she earns his respect for life. Number 3, she's not threatened by his unpredictability. The modern world runs on predictability, calendars packed with appointments, relationships built on expectations, lives measured by 5-year plans. But the Sigma male exists outside this system. His path isn't linear, his rhythm doesn't match conventional time. Where others see inconsistency, he sees freedom, the right to change direction when intuition calls, to disappear when solitude demands, to reinvent himself without warning or apology. Most people find this terrifying. They crave guarantees like oxygen, mistaking predictability for safety. They want promises etched in stone, schedules set in advance, emotions that follow predictable patterns. But the woman who understands a Sigma male knows better. She recognizes that his unpredictability isn't flakiness, it's the manifestation of a mind that refuses to be caged. To try to tame it would be like trying to leash the wind. She doesn't mistake his silence for distance or his sudden shifts in focus for disinterest. When he withdraws for days into his own world, she doesn't bombard him with anxious texts. When he changes plans last minute, she doesn't take it as a personal slight. She understands that his need to move freely isn't about her, it's about honoring the untamed parts of himself that most people try to suppress. What others might call unreliable, she recognizes as sacred. His unpredictability is the pulse of his creativity, the proof that he answers to no one's clock but his own. While weaker partners try to clip his wings with demands for consistency, she gives him sky. And in doing so, she becomes the rare exception to his rule of solitude, because with her, freedom isn't threatened, it's celebrated. The paradox? By not demanding he fit into neat boxes, she becomes the one he chooses to return to, again and again. Not out of obligation, but because her understanding feels like home. In a world that constantly tries to domesticate him, she's the sanctuary where he can remain wild. Number 4, she has a life so complete that his presence is a bonus, not a necessity. A Sigma male can smell neediness like blood in water. It's not that he's cruel, he's just wired to avoid anything that might leach his energy or compromise his freedom. He isn't looking for a project, a damsel in distress, or someone to fix. The woman who captures his attention isn't half a person searching for completion, she's a whole universe unto herself. Her life doesn't pause when he's not around. Her calendar isn't a blank slate waiting for his plans. She has friendships that nourish her, projects that excite her, passions that set her soul on fire, with or without him. When he enters her world, it's not as a missing puzzle piece, but as a complementary force. She doesn't need him to validate her existence, she's already certain of her worth. This is what makes her irresistible. While other women cancel plans hoping he'll call, she's too busy building her empire to sit by the phone. While others mold themselves to fit his interests, she remains unapologetically immersed in her own. She doesn't perform availability or play the cool girl, she simply lives a life so rich that his presence becomes an enhancement rather than a requirement. Sigma males respect this independence because they embody it themselves. They know the difference between choosing someone and needing someone, and they'll only value what they don't feel pressured to provide. When a woman's happiness isn't contingent on his attention, it proves something profound. She's with him not out of lack, but out of genuine desire. This dynamic creates a rare alchemy. Two complete individuals, each with their own orbits, choosing to collide not out of emptiness, but from overflow. No clinging, no desperation, just mutual recognition of strength meeting strength. And that's where real connection begins, not with two halves making a whole, but with two wholes choosing to create something greater. In a world full of people searching for someone to complete them, she stands apart, not as a missing piece, but as a force of nature. And that's exactly why a Sigma male, who values his freedom above all else, will freely choose to stay. Number 5, she's immune to social noise. The modern world operates on a currency of validation, likes, follows, and the constant hum of collective opinion. Most people move through life unaware of how deeply they've internalized this need for external approval. Their identities become malleable, shifting with each new trend, their self-worth rising and falling with the fickle tides of public opinion. They adopt beliefs not from conviction, but from convenience, molding themselves to fit whatever narrative promises acceptance in the moment. But the woman who stands beside a Sigma male exists in a different paradigm entirely. Where others chase the dopamine hit of social media notifications and the fleeting warmth of crowd approval, she moves with the quiet certainty of someone who answers to a deeper compass. Her worth isn't something she seeks from the world, it's something she carries within, unshakable and self-contained. Gossip, trends, and status symbols hold no power over her. She isn't impressed by designer labels or intimidated by social hierarchies. When the crowd moves left, she doesn't feel compelled to follow unless it aligns with her own values. This isn't contrarianism for its own sake, it's the natural result of having done the hard work of self-definition. She knows who she is, and no amount of external noise can convince her to be otherwise. This immunity to social pressure isn't aloofness or disconnection. Rather, it's a form of intelligence, the wisdom to protect her energy and attention for what truly matters. She understands the difference between authentic connection and the empty theater of social performance. Where others chase visibility, she cultivates substance. Where many broadcast their lives for applause, she builds hers for meaning. To a Sigma male, a man who has spent his life operating outside conventional systems, this quality is instantly recognizable and deeply compelling. Having navigated the world as an outsider himself, he has developed a sixth sense for authenticity. When he encounters a woman untouched by the need for collective validation, it cuts through the noise like a clarion call. In her, he sees something rare, a person who isn't chasing, but choosing. Who isn't performing, but being. In a world drowning in manufactured personas and curated identities, she is the silence between the notes, the space where truth resides. This isn't a role one can fake. You either know yourself at this fundamental level, or you don't. You either move through the world guided by an inner compass, or you're swept along by the currents of collective opinion. The woman worthy of a Sigma male doesn't just withstand the noise, she transcends it entirely, creating a gravitational pull that draws those who value substance over spectacle. Number 6, she has scars but doesn't showcase them like trophies. Life has tested her in ways that would break most people. She carries wounds that run deep, betrayals that cut to the bone, losses that left permanent marks, trials that could have destroyed a weaker spirit. Yet when you meet her, these battles aren't the first thing you notice. She doesn't lead with her pain or use her past as currency for sympathy. Her scars exist, undeniable in their reality, but they aren't the centerpiece of her identity. She understands that while pain shapes us, it doesn't have to define us. Where others might turn their wounds into weapons or badges of honor, she treats hers with quiet dignity, acknowledging their existence without being ruled by them. This isn't repression or denial. She's done the hard work of healing, often in private, without audience or applause. Her growth wasn't a performance for social media or dinner party conversations. It happened in the quiet hours, in the uncelebrated moments of choosing to rise when every instinct said to stay down. A Sigma male recognizes this quality immediately. In her, he sees a reflection of his own journey, the solitary path of someone who has faced life's harshest lessons and emerged stronger, not harder. He doesn't just admire her strength, he respects the grace with which she carries it. What makes her remarkable isn't that she suffered, suffering is universal. It's how she transformed that suffering. Where others become bitter, she found depth. Where some grow cynical, she cultivated wisdom. She doesn't parade her pain as proof of worth, nor does she expect the world to tiptoe around her wounds. In an age where victimhood is often worn as a crown and trauma is displayed for social capital, she does something radical. She takes full responsibility for her healing. She stands tall not because life has been gentle with her, but because she refused to be diminished by its harshness. Her strength isn't the brittle kind that shatters at the slightest pressure, it's the resilient, tempered kind that bends but doesn't break. This quiet fortitude is catnip to a Sigma male. He knows the difference between someone who has truly grown through their pain and those who remain stuck in it. In her, he finds not just a partner, but a fellow traveler who understands that the purpose of struggle isn't to earn sympathy, but to forge character. Her scars tell a story, but it's not the story of what was done to her, it's the story of who she chose to become in spite of it. And that makes all the difference. Number 7, she can handle the truth even when it cuts deep. In an era of carefully curated personas and diplomatic half-truths, the Sigma male stands apart as a purveyor of unfiltered reality. He doesn't dilute his words to spare feelings or massage egos. When he speaks, it's with surgical precision, not to wound, but because he respects you enough to tell the hard truths others avoid. The woman who earns her place beside him understands this radical honesty is the ultimate compliment, a sign she's been deemed worthy of his unvarnished perspective. She possesses an emotional constitution forged in the fires of self-awareness. Where others flinch from uncomfortable realities, she leans in. When he delivers difficult feedback, she doesn't collapse into defensiveness or retreat into victimhood. Instead, she engages with the substance of his words, separating the message from any momentary sting. This isn't masochism, it's wisdom. She recognizes that truth, however painful in the moment, is the whetstone that sharpens character. Her strength manifests in telling ways. She doesn't require constant reassurance or sugarcoating. When he points out areas for growth, she receives it as data rather than indictment. This creates a rare dynamic where communication flows without the usual filters and pretenses that dilute most relationships. He can trust her with his unprocessed thoughts, knowing she won't weaponize his honesty or punish his transparency. In a world addicted to comfort and validation, her ability to sit with uncomfortable truths makes her irreplaceable. She understands that real growth happens at the edge of discomfort, and that the most valuable mirrors are those that show our unflattering angles. This emotional maturity allows their connection to operate at a frequency most couples never experience, one where truth isn't just tolerated, but actively welcomed as the foundation of authentic relating. Number 8, she understands freedom is the ultimate love language. Control is the antithesis of everything a Sigma male represents. He's spent a lifetime evading society's cages, and can detect the faintest whiff of manipulation or constraint. The woman who captures his heart understands this at a cellular level. She knows that any attempt to leash him, whether through guilt, surveillance, or emotional blackmail, will only trigger his instinct to disappear. Her approach is radically different. She doesn't track his movements or demand constant check-ins. She won't manufacture crises to test his loyalty or punish his independence. This isn't indifference, it's profound security. She operates from an unshakable knowing. If he chooses to stay, it must be of his own free will, not because she's engineered his compliance. This creates a powerful paradox that defies conventional relationship wisdom. Where others cling tighter, she gives space. Where most would impose rules, she offers trust. And in doing so, she becomes magnetic to his free spirit. He recognizes in her what he values most in himself, the understanding that love isn't about possession, but about mutual choosing. Her confidence stems from an unassailable foundation of self-worth. She doesn't measure a relationship's health by its constraints, but by the quality of connection when two whole people come together freely. This allows their bond to develop organically, without the artificial pressures that suffocate most partnerships. In the spaciousness she provides, he discovers something remarkable, that true freedom doesn't lead away from connection, but to its purest form. 9. Her self-worth isn't up for negotiation. In a world desperate for approval, she stands apart. Her value isn't something she seeks from others, it's built into her foundation. Like the Sigma male himself, she doesn't explain, justify, or shrink herself to comfort others. When she enters a room, her quiet confidence is palpable. She isn't arrogant, she's assured. A Sigma recognizes this instantly, respecting her as he respects himself. She isn't looking for completion, she's already whole. This unshakable self-knowledge changes everything: how she moves, what she accepts, and who she allows in her life. 10. She doesn't try to fix him. A Sigma male isn't a project needing repair. The right woman understands this completely. She doesn't approach him with improvement plans or hidden agendas. She appreciates his complexity without trying to simplify it. His rough edges don't frighten her, his silence doesn't panic her. She recognizes what others mistake as brokenness is actually the mark of someone not built for ordinary existence. Sigma males don't need saviors, they seek equals. When they find a woman who loves them as they are, not as she wishes they'd be, they don't just stay, they thrive. 11. She understands presence over possession. She knows the difference between having a man and being with one. Her security doesn't come from constant contact, but from the quality of connection when they're together. When he needs space, she doesn't take it personally. She understands his distance isn't rejection, it's renewal. This patience is rewarded with his deepest loyalty, because what he chooses freely, not out of obligation, is what he values most. Final words. Being with a Sigma male isn't about changing yourself, it's about standing firmly in who you are. The right woman builds her own life first, loves without suffocating, and understands that real connection grows in freedom, not force. If you're this woman, or becoming her, keep going. Your power isn't in pursuit, but in presence. Not in demands, but in quiet assurance. The world has enough players. What Sigma males seek are women courageous enough to be authentically, unapologetically themselves. And when you are that woman, you won't need to chase. The right Sigma will find you, and recognize you immediately. Thank you for watching.